shit doesn't come and kick your ass. All right, so go watch the previous video if you want to see the beginning of this. But talking about gravity, talking about stars, talking about all this shit, and I just had to reset because this is just fucking stupid. This is what you have to believe. You have to believe this, okay? There's no... You don't get to say no. That's not how our society works. Our society doesn't say you're allowed to question these things and still be considered a reasonable, intelligent human being who has a right to say things. Right? Which is a strange fucking thing, but when you actually see what you're supposed to know, it's shocking. It's shocking how insultingly stupid it is. So, we're starting with the formation of stars. This is star nurseries. Spiral galaxies, like the Milky Way, contain stars, stellar remnants, and a diffuse interstellar medium, ISM, of gas and dust. See, this is where it always gets funny, because now we're going to start getting into these numbers, right? The interstellar medium consists of 10 to the 4 to 10 to the 6th particles per centimeter to the 3rd, and is typically composed of roughly 70% hydrogen, 28% helium, and 1.5% heavier elements by mass. Now, understand, this is supposedly scientific fact. We supposedly know that the gas clouds that they say exist down in space are made up of this of 70% hydrogen, 28% helium, and 1.5% heavier elements by mass. Which isn't 100%, so we're still missing 5% or 0.5%, but the trace amounts of heavier elements were and are produced within stars via stellar nucleosynthesis and ejected as the star passes beyond the end of their main sequence lifetime. Higher density regions of the interstellar medium form clouds or diffuse nebula. Diffuse, D-I-F-F-U-S-E, diffuse nebula, where star formation takes place. In contrast to spiral galaxies, elliptical galaxies lose the cold component of its interstellar medium within roughly 1 billion years, which hinders the galaxy from forming diffuse nebula, except through mergers with other galaxies. Look, here's a picture of... Wait, what is this one? This one is the Hubble Space Telescope image known as the Pillars of Creation, where stars are forming in the Eagle Nebula. Hubble took that. And see that part up at the top that's blacked out? See that? Up at the top? Right. Yeah. That's where the thumbprint was. That's where somebody had their thumb on the lens over the camera, so they had to black that out. Like, you believe this, right? This is what you believe. You believe this is the reality because they said so. This looks like a real picture to you, doesn't it? This doesn't look like a painting or anything, animation or cartoon. It doesn't look like the never-ending story and shit. The never-ending story. Na, 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 na. The never-ending story. 2 steps away from flat earther. This development is crazy. So, reading about what they want you to know makes you crazy. And I already don't believe the earth is round. So I don't know what the fuck you have to tell yourself to be able to believe your shit, but you go right ahead. In the dense nebula where stars are produced, much of the hydrogen is in the molecular form, H2 form. So these nebula are called molecular clouds. The Herschel Space Observatory, I don't remember hearing about this Herschel Space Observatory. Do you guys remember the Herschel Space Observatory? Holy shit. It's like a bag of popcorn. It looks like Jiffy Pop.
Is it see-through? Is it ceramic?
No, it's metal. It's probably a metal sail of some sort.
That is so dumb.
The funny thing is, at some point, they could convince us that this was futuristic. But now that we've gotten past that and we realize this isn't...
Future.
Right. This isn't what the future looks like. This looks janky as shit. They can't go back on it.
Houses on big stilts above the clouds. What the fuck, man? I feel cheated.
The Herschel Space Observatory was a space observatory built and operated by the European Space Agency. It was active from 2009 to 2013. Then what happened?
So how much money did they spend for 4 years of use?
And was the largest infrared telescope, another infrared telescope, ever launched until the launch of the James Webb in 2021. Herschel carries a 3.5 meter mirror. Why would you need a mirror in an infrared telescope? I mean, the mirror thing is supposed to be so we can
take selfies. That's why we got that picture.
No, so the way they say these giant telescopes work is it doesn't actually see out. The mirror's at the base, and then the instruments and whatnot look at the mirror. That's reflecting space.
Right, because it can't look out into space because of the lack of light.
I don't know. And instruments sensitive to the far infrared and sub-millimeter wave bands. Herschel was the fourth and final cornerstone mission in the Horizon 2000 program, following SOHO, Cluster 2, XMM Newton, and Rosetta.
Rosetta Stone?
Sure. The observatory... Look at the picture of it. That's the logo. Nothing to see composite? There. No, that's actually a real picture. The observatory was carried into orbit by an Ariane 5 in May of 2009, reaching the second Lagrangian point, L2. Oh, so they were using the Lagrange points for this too. So here I am thinking that it's in Earth's orbit like the Hubble was, I guess, supposed to be. But no, this was in the L2 Lagrange point. Like, okay, so you guys don't know about the Lagrange point, so let's do this. Lagrange point. This is the fucking funniest bullshit ever. What? In celestial mechanics, a thing, the Lagrange points are points of equilibrium for small mass objects under the gravitational influence of two massive orbiting bodies. Mathematically, this involves the solution of the restricted three-body problem. So it's that. Although, I thought L2 was way I didn't know. I thought it was 2 in between the Earth and the Sun. I mean, I guess I was wrong, but so we're gonna find no. So you want to see how the animations work to make total sense? There you go, sweetheart. That's not somebody on a fucking computer screen. Just moving them.
But it's based on their computer information.
Look at this. Look at this.
That's so silly. I made a program like that once too.
This is like 1992, and why are all the space animations, all of the CERN animations, everything that these multi-gajillion, fulfillion dollar industries like give us as far as proving what they say, it's always like, dude, is this Atari? Like, what are you giving us? You imagine there's no video of the launch the other day. I found a 2-hour video from NASA. No, you didn't. You did not find a 2-hour long video of the James Webb Space Telescope being launched. There is an animation of it. Good luck, though. And if they suddenly produce that, then that's even funnier. All right, normally the two massive bodies exert an unbalanced gravity force at a point, altering the orbit of whatever is at that point. At the Lagrange points, the gravitational forces of the two large bodies and the centrifugal force balance each other. This can make Lagrange points an excellent location for satellites, as orbit corrections and hence fuel requirements needed to maintain the desired orbit are kept at a minimum. See, they figured out a way to tell you, like when you were like, well, how the fuck do they refuel that thing? How do they even control it? Like, because it takes such a long time for the signal to go from point A to point B. They don't have to. The Lagrange point just does it for them. This is awesome. This is awesome. For any combination of two orbital bodies, there are 5 Lagrange points. Any of them. So wait, any combination of two orbital bodies, that means the moon has them. That means we have them with Mars and like, wait, what? Or is it just two that orbit each other, I guess? So then there are the moon ones again. There are 5 Lagrange points for the Sun-Earth system and 5 different Lagrange points for the Earth-Moon system. And then so Jupiter and shit has like 100 moons. Maybe less, maybe more, I don't give a fuck. They have a ton of moons. So we're saying that Jupiter has just all these Lagrange points too, okay. L1, L2, and L3 are on the line through the centers of the two large bodies, while L4 and 5 each act as a third vertex of an equilateral triangle formed with the centers of the two large bodies. When the mass ratio of the two bodies is large enough, what is that? What do you think the mass ratio, at what point does it not be large enough?
It doesn't even make any sense.
In the vacuum. We're in a vacuum.
I can't make logic out of illogical.
The L4 and L5 points are stable points, and these are the ones that are in the gravity that meaning that objects can orbit them, and that they have a tendency to pull objects. So wait. Those two Lagrange points can have their own orbiting systems around them. Not just trap stuff in them, but things can then orbit them. Yeah. Several planets have Trojan asteroids near their L4 or L5 points with respect to the sun. Jupiter has more than 1 million of these Trojans.
What are
asteroids?
They have Spartans in them?
Well, the Trojan horse is fake, right? Isn't that what it's supposed to be? It's deception.
Right.
So are they saying this is a deception?
Tricking the Lagrange points?
Just be quiet.
Leave alone, I have to leave home a bit.
Some Lagrange points are being used for space exploration. 2 important Lagrange points in the Sun-Earth system are L1, between the Sun and Earth. Oh, is that where they park the satellites that take pictures of the sun? You know how you always have that one satellite that's in the exact same position and never moves? and they got that camera on the sun so you can see pictures of the solar flares poofing
They
out.
have it on the sun, or they have it on a mirror that reflects the sun.
They have it on they have it at the Lagrange point, and it takes pictures. It takes video.
Well, yeah, because we have to see the flare moving.
Right. It takes video where you can see the solar flare whip out and curl around. Your butterfly in a non-astrology was also seemingly off. You don't seem to account for the relative speed of the butterfly compared to the net. The butterfly isn't going 0 to... Oh, okay. So again, you think if the butterfly is traveling at even, say, 5 miles per hour, if it gets caught in a net going 67 miles per hour, it'll be fine then. Because it's not just sitting there. If it was just sitting there, then yeah, maybe that would be a problem. But because it's going, and I did account for this, I did actually make this point many, many times. Remember, like if you're in a car and say you're going 20 miles per hour and somebody comes and smashes into you from behind at 65 miles per hour, you understand it's not going to be like a whole bunch better than if you were sitting still, right?
Right.
You're going to get hit and just smash to shit. You're going to go back and probably break your neck and all that shit. Even if you're going as fast as like 40 miles an hour and somebody comes and smashes into you at 65, it's going to smash the fuck out of you. But you're talking about, we're talking about at miles per hour, single, tens of miles per hour. You're talking about a James Webb Space Telescope that's either going in that direction at whatever fucking... Say we can go 20,000 miles per hour. Say we can go 30,000 miles per hour. To then be hit going 67,000 miles per hour is a force that you can't even comprehend. It's not going to be the same difference between 35 miles per hour and 65 miles per hour. The difference between 37 miles per hour, or 30,000 miles per hour and 67,000 miles per hour is exponentially more energy, exponentially more damage, more thrust, more everything than the difference between 35 and 65. It doesn't scale like that. You goof. It doesn't go 0 when it gets... Like, you're making arguments that's not even making any sense. Someone jumping on a trampoline in a car will stay on the trampoline. As long as that car doesn't move or oscillate even a little bit. And no, they won't.
Didn't Elon Musk fly a car through space? Or was that the other one?
No, it was Musk who put a car in orbit. It's not in orbit around the Earth. It's in its own unique orbit around the sun.
Or was that Branson?
Have you ever seen what about Jackass? Remember in Jackass when they rented the truck and they were in the back of the moving truck while it was going around? Yeah, they weren't just having a cup of tea. No, this is crazy. We're not even feeling this. People that say these kinds of things...
sat on the back of the school bus just so you can have the bumpier ride as a kid? We did.
Have you ever been on an airplane? Have you ever been on any...
On a train?
Or even on a cruise ship?
Oh my gosh.
You still feel it. It's huge, but you could still feel, especially if they're drastic movements. Or if the cruise ship were to jerk suddenly or stop. But these are just like, I'm sitting here arguing like layman bullshit with people who just want to argue nonsense because they can't debunk anything being said.
Now, we didn't feel when like the boat left port or docked at port. We couldn't feel that. But we felt the fucking big waves when the hurricane was nearby. That is for goddamn.
Well, you didn't feel the docking because it was going super slow.
So slow, right. And when it takes off out of port, it's going super slow.
Look.
That just surfaced in front of them.
Yeah. Oh, it's the Russians. Oh, shit. Shitty shit stains.
Okay, you're in Hawaii. So Pearl Harbor is like all about your islands. If you saw that, wouldn't you get the fuck out of there?
It's just crazy how people are like these arguments. You think that like you're just underestimating what 67,000 miles per hour is, I guess.
Oh my gosh. People don't.
They can't fathom it. You can't.
Have you ever been in a car doing 120, 140 miles an hour? It's insane.
Yeah, you don't just lean forward like, whoa, we're moving the same speed. You can barely move.
It's insane going that fast. You can't even fathom 67,000?
Yeah, 67,000 miles per hour. There's videos of people on a trampoline on the back of a car. Sure there are. And that car is traveling as fast as it can possibly go.
That's straight physics, honey. That doesn't work unless
You feel turbulence in banks with turns for sure, but you're saying you feel the 180 miles per hour of the plane. It's not going 180 miles per hour. It's going like 500 miles per hour to 600 miles per hour.
And you don't necessarily feel...
You don't feel that? No.
You feel like...
Deviations.
Yeah.
You feel turbulence. You feel all kinds of shit. Even though you're traveling at the same speed, you still feel it. And you're in an insulated, pressurized cabin.
Right.
If you weren't in a pressurized cabin, you have to be in a pressurized cabin. It can't work any other way. But you're in a hermetically sealed, pressurized cabin. If that seal is broken in any way, it's a big fucking problem. But these are like, this is like, am I seriously talking to 12-year-olds here? Does this really, you can't really think this is fucking real, right? He doesn't care about the truth, yep. Because I don't believe and just agree with what you're saying. Even though you can't make better arguments, it must be real. It must be real. You ever been on a trip? Now, I have somebody saying cap over, and because you must be a teenager, right? That's cap, dog. That's cap. I can't tell you why or how. That's cap. This is the best that's ever going to come my way. No, and here, let's go back to this, because this is what you're supposed to know. We're on the Lagrange points here. Some Lagrange points are used, blah, 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 blah. Between the Earth and Sun, L2. Okay, two important Lagrange points in the Sun-Earth system are L1 between the Sun and Earth, and L2 on the same line at the opposite side of the Earth. Both are well outside the Moon's orbit. Currently, an artificial satellite called Deep Space Climate Observatory, or DISCOVER, is located at L1 to study solar wind coming toward Earth from the Sun and to monitor Earth's climate by taking images and sending them back. You know, through space. How does, like, because the idea of thrust in a vacuum doesn't actually work, right? There's nothing to push off of, so there's nothing to move forward with. How do signals fly through a vacuum like that? We just happen to have signals that can fly through vacuums? And those signals can transmit images? Currently, by taking the James Webb Space Telescope, a powerful infrared space observatory, is located at L2. This allows the satellite's sun shield to protect the telescope from the light and heat of the sun, Earth and Moon simultaneously, with no need to rotate the sun shield. The L1 and L2 Lagrange points are located about 930 miles from Earth. But that's
So 900. How many miles is it from here to Tennessee? Okay,
like
so
a
I'm just trying
like
to
a
get.
1,000.
Okay, so roughly the same distance between Michigan and Tennessee, but up, right?
No, um, no, no. About 930 times the distance from Michigan to Tennessee, further out into space.
How do we measure that?
Tape
How do we
measure.
know? Oh.
Yeah, tape measure.
Or do we just send a
You
pigeon?
dumbass! We use lasers. Lasers. There's a pigeon out there holding a mirror, and they shoot a laser off the mirror, and they measure the time it takes for the laser beam to go from here to there and then back again. It's lasers. The European Space Agency's earlier Gaia telescope and its newly launched Elucid also occupy orbits around L2. Right. Because again, these aren't these Lagrange points have their own orbits. You can orbit around it. It's an invisible place with its own orbit. It gets so much better. Gaia keeps a tighter les ajouts. Where are the glasses? Les ajouts orbit around L2, while Euclid follows a halo orbit similar to the JWST. So, how do they decide what orbit it's going to get into? And then how do they get it into this orbital space 930,000 miles away from the Earth? Like, to get it into the James Webb Space Telescope, to the Lagrange point itself, there's no assistance. They're flying blindly through vacuum space until they get to the Lagrange point. And then they're like, okay, this thing is going to be in a halo, so we got to put it here. And then how do they prevent the things from crashing into each other? And how big are these Lagrange points? Each of the space observatories benefit from being far enough from Earth's shadow to utilize solar panels for power, from not needing much power or propellant from station keeping, from not being subjected to the Earth's magnetospheric effects, and from having direct line of sight to Earth for data transfer. Boy, that is just insanely convenient. Because if you're like, well, how do they stay powered? And it's a good thing they never break, because they never break. Because there's no way you fix it, right? 930,000 miles away. 930,000 miles away. No, it's awesome. They're allowed. It's far enough from the shadow to utilize solar panels for power, but not needing much power propellant for station keeping. It's shielded from Earth's magnetospheric effects, and it also has a direct line of sight to Earth for easy data transfer.
So, 10 times from Michigan to Tennessee? Is that what you said?
1,000 times. No, 100,000 times. No. It's 930,000 miles away. It's maybe 1,000 miles to Tennessee, maybe. So it's 1,000 times. Yeah. So far, you can't imagine it with all of your might.
There's no way to we don't have measuring tools figured out. I want to hear the laser bullshit. Oh, look, they're all coming.
Oh, man. The three Collie collinear Lagrange points L1, 2, and 3 were discovered by Swiss mathematician Leonard Euler around 1750. These weren't like important enough to be
100 years before they built buildings and bridges. They did this. That makes sense.
It was discovered by a Swiss mathematician around this time. So just think about this. A Swiss mathematician guy uses the to discover this and writes it down, and it's 2025. Now I know about it.
They can't figure out how to build a tunnel out of water at that time frame.
Underwater.
It took them 100 years to even get to that. But they were figuring this out then.
Yes.
Seems like their priorities were a little mixed up.
Shut up. Just shut up. Okay. Around 1750, a decade before the Italian-born Joseph Louis Lagrange discovered the remaining two, and then, I guess, named the other three? Because the other guy was like, I discovered them, but I'm not going to name them. In 1772, Lagrange published an essay on the three-body problem.
I love you.
You're missing out. I love you too. In the first chapter, he considered the general three-body problem. From that, in the second chapter, he demonstrated two special constant pattern solutions, the collinear and equatorial, and for any three masses with circular orbits. He figured this out. Mathematically, he knew how to figure this out in the vacuum of space in 1772. The L1 point lies on the line defined between the two large masses M1 and M2. It is the point where the gravitational attraction of M2 and of M1 combine to produce an equilibrium. What would you base this on? It's not like you can sit here and go, okay, let me test this theory. I'm going to set up an experiment for these two objects larger than it's the size of the planet I'm on, and then way, way bigger out in the vacuum of space. I'm going to devise an experiment to be able to test for that. By all means, somebody tell my stupid ass how in the 1700s somebody was able to do this. Even if you say he only did it mathematically, how would he know? How would he know what gravitational forces and all that shit are exuded on this? How many miles it was from this place to that? How would he have figured that out? What was the basis for this information? Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Just keep talking dumb shit. Isaac Newton figures out orbits and can calculate them in the 1700s. Yup, because that makes sense. Yup. Sitting under a tree, an apple fell down and bonked his head, and he was like, oh, gravity. Gravity, that's how that works. Look, I can't even begin to have any sort of debate with this level of stupid. It's just not, you either believe it or you don't. I can't tell you how to, that you should ask more questions about things that supposedly happened in the 1700s. That's just not. If you buy all that, what can I do? You think that's how things work, that people back then just figured this shit out, pad of paper and pencil, and he was like, no, it's just like this. SpaceX rocket explosion grounds flights. SpaceX rocket explosion. Another one. An object that orbits the sun more closely than Earth would typically have a shorter orbital period than Earth. But that ignores the effect of Earth's gravitational pull. If the object is directly between the Earth and the sun, then Earth's gravity counteracts some of the sun's pull on the object, increasing the object's orbital period. Just dumb. The closer to Earth the object is, the greater this effect is. At L1 point, the object's orbital period becomes exactly equal to Earth's orbital period. L1 is about 1.5 million kilometers, about 1,000,000 miles, from Earth in the direction of the sun. Probably not hotter there though, right? I mean, this is dumb. This is dumb. Like, you're just not allowing yourself to think. L2, and remember, somebody in the 1700s figured this out. The L2 point lies on a line through the two large masses beyond the smaller of the two. Here, the combined gravitational forces of the two large masses balance the centrifugal force on a body at L2. On the opposite side of the Earth from the sun, the orbital period of an object would normally be greater than the Earth's. The extra pull of Earth's gravity decreases the object's orbital period, and at the L2 point, the orbital period becomes equal to Earth's. Like L1, L2 is about 1.5 million kilometers, or 0.01 AU, from Earth away from the sun. An example of a spacecraft designed to operate near the Earth's sun L2 is the James Webb Space Telescope. Earlier examples include the Wilkinson Microwave Anisotropy Probe, and its successor, Planck. This is just nuts. The L3 point lies on a line defined by the two large masses beyond the larger of the two within the Earth-Sun system. The L3 point exists on the opposite side of the sun, a little outside the Earth's orbit, and slightly farther from the center of the sun than Earth is. This placement occurs because the sun is also affected by Earth's gravity. Oh, this is so dumb. And so orbits around the two bodies' barycenter, which is well inside the body of the sun. An object at Earth's distance from the sun would have an orbital period of 1 year if only the sun's gravity is considered. But an object on the opposite side of the sun from Earth and directly in line with both feels, in quotation marks, Earth's gravity, adding slightly to the sun's, and therefore must orbit at a little farther from the barycenter of the Earth and sun in order to have the same 1 year period. It is the L3 point that the combined pull of the Earth and sun caused the object to orbit with the same period as the Earth, in effect orbiting an Earth plus sun mass with the Earth-Sun barycenter at one focus of its orbit. That is so fucking stupid. The L4 and L5 points lie at the third vertices of the two equilateral triangles in the plane of orbit whose common base is the line between the centers of the two masses, such that the point lies 60 degrees ahead of L4 or behind L5, the smaller mass with regard to its orbit around the larger mass. There you go. Because triangles, man. Triangles, triangles, triangles. The triangular points, L4 and L5, are stable equilibria, provided that the ratio of M1 over M2 is greater than 24.96. Yeah, well, I'm sure it is. You know, anything less than 24.96 just throws everything off. So it's 24.96. Gotta be greater than 24.96. Sorry, I gotta do some lines. Because I'm always doing lines. This is the case for the Sun-Earth system, the Sun-Jupiter system, and by smaller margin, the Earth-Moon system. When a body at these points is perturbed, it moves away from the point. But the factor opposite of that, which is increased or decreased by the perturbation, either gravity or angular momentum-induced speed, will also increase or decrease, bending the object's path into a stable kidney bean-shaped orbit around the point, as seen in the correlating frame of reference. The points L1, 2, and 3 are positions of unstable equilibrium. Any object orbiting at L1, 2, or 3 will tend to fall out of orbit. It is therefore rare to find natural objects there. Oh! There you go. That's how come it doesn't crash into other shit, because natural objects can't stay there. Makes sense. Makes sense. And spacecraft inhabiting these areas must employ a small but critical amount of station keeping in order to maintain their position. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, this is just fucking stupid. Here is Joseph Louis Lagrange, of course, looking off to the left, or looking with this he's actually, I guess, he's facing our left, but he's looking to his right, down to the right. They always look like that. Joseph Louis Lagrange, born Giuseppe Luigi Lagrangia, or Giuseppe Ludovico della Grange Tournier, because, you know, everybody has multiple names and shit, especially multiple names that are so fucking different. Totally makes sense. I love how so many historical figures have multiple names. January 25th, 1736 to April 10th, 1813. Old man. Also reported as Giuseppe Luigi Lagrange or Giuseppe Luigi Lagrangia. Dude has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different names he was known by. Makes sense. He was an Italian mathematician, physicist, and astronomer, later a naturalized French citizen. He made significant contributions to the field of analysis, number theory, and both classical and celestial mechanics. One of these guys, one of these polymaths, huh? Died at 77. Known for analytical mechanics, calculus of variations, celestial mechanics, mathematical analysis, number theory, theory of equations. Man, this guy is the fucking bomb. In 1776, on the recommendation of Leonhard Euler and D. Ambret, I guess D. Almbret is a person. D. Almbret, lowercase d apostrophe capital Alembret. De Alembret, no last name. Lagrange succeeded Euler as the director of mathematics at the Prussian Academy of Sciences. In 1766, the Prussian Academy of Sciences existed. Oh, yeah, of course. Of course, it's one of these big ass fucking amazing buildings. The Prussian Academy of Sciences. Fuck yeah. That was built for the Prussian Academy of Sciences building. The origins. Prince Elector Frederick III of Brandenburg, Germany, founded the academy under the name of Kufferslich der Wissenschaft, Electoral Brandenburg Society of Sciences. Upon the advice of Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, who was appointed president. Unlike other academies, the Prussian Academy was not directly funded out of the state treasury. Frederick granted it the monopoly on producing and selling calendars in Brandenburg, a suggestion from Leibniz. As Frederick was crowned King of Prussia in 1701, creating the Kingdom of Prussia, the Academy was renamed Königlich Weisenschaffen, Royal Prussian Society of Sciences. While other academies focused on few topics, the Prussian Academy was the first to teach both sciences and humanities. In 1710, the Academy statute was set, dividing the Academy into 2 sciences and 2 humanities classes. This was not changed until 1830, when the physics, mathematics, and philosophical history classes replaced the 4 old classes. That's the origins, though we don't get to actually see the building, I guess. How the building was built. Frederick the Great. Don't care about Frederick the Great. Let's see. Saw major changes to the Academy in 1744. The Nouvelle Society Literaire and the Society of Sciences were merged into the Royal Academy of Sciences. An obligation from the new statute were public calls for ideas on unsolved scientific questions with a monetary reward for solutions. Boy, we don't have anything like that today, do we? The Academy acquired its own research facilities in the 18th century, including an observatory in 1709. It acquired it, yep. An anatomical theater in 1717. An anatomical theater was a specialized building or room resembling a theater used in teaching anatomy and early modern universities. They were typically constructed with a tiered structure surrounding a central table, allowing a larger audience to see the dissection of cadavers more closely than would have been possible in non-specialized. Ah, yes. This is the anatomical theater in the Archigensio of Bologna, constructed in 1637. Exactly. Fuck yeah. Still on today too, right? It's fucking crazy. All right. In a Collegium Medicio Chirigium in 1723, a botanical garden in 1718, and a laboratory in 1753. However, those were later taken over by the University of Berlin. So there's no historical account of the building or anything like that. There's literally nothing. That's so crazy. Prussian Academy of Arts, former art school in Berlin. It's not what we're really talking about, though, are we? This is the Prussian Academy of Sciences, and I wish I could see the entire building itself. That's all the only image I get on Wiki there. All right. This is Lagrange still. So he succeeded Euler as the director of mathematics at that place in Berlin, Prussia, where he stayed for over 20 years, producing many volumes of work and winning several prizes of the French Academy of Sciences. You know, back in the 1770s, 1780s, where people were just traveling. Like this guy would go to his Prussian Institute of Sciences or whatever, work all day by like oil lamp and shit. Who knows? Then ride his horse home to his thatch roof house, where they didn't have any heat. They didn't have any, didn't have. It's just fucking stupid. Lagrange's treatise on analytical mechanics, Mécanique Analytique, 4th edition, 2 volumes, Paris, Guthrie Villers et Fils, 1788 to 1789. Again, these books have just survived, which was written in Berlin and first published in 1788. It was published. What publishing houses existed back then? How did they do that? How did they disperse their product all over the place? Why would a library in fucking who knows where in Germany have books from France and vice versa? Why would we have those books? How did we get those books here in the States and shit? Like, what was the printing process like back then? What was the publishing process like back then? I know it's a pain in the ass nowadays. You know, did you have to have the literary agent back then? Did you have to have the J? Because, publishing houses today, if you write a book, it's not, first of all, the thing you write, if it did get published, wouldn't be the thing that got published. Especially if you had any J bad guys or Israeli bad guys or anything like that. But you can't solicit publishing houses. They consider that unsolicited material. So you have to go get yourself a J literary agent. I mean, I'm sure there are those that aren't, but they're not nearly as successful. A J literary agent, and then if they like what that you produce, then they'll represent you, and then they take it to their contacts at the publishing houses, but they're only allowed to do one at a time. And each publishing house gets like 60 days exclusivity to it. So they can only shop one at a time. And if after 60 days the one publishing house doesn't want it, then it goes to the next one. If your agent is on top of their shit. But that's if the agent wants to represent your shit. They'll go through and tell you if you got to take out some of Jay's stuff here, this and that. And then let's just say the publishing house does want it. Now it has to go through a multitude of editors and proofreaders and shit who will also take out what they don't want. But how did that work back in this day? especially when it comes to science books and shit. And these are just questions that I'm sure a good lot of you never bother to ask. And when presented with these questions, you don't go, you know what, that's actually a good question. I wonder how that works. You go, shut up, I don't like your haircut. It's just so stupid how consistent it all is. Which was written in Berlin and first published in 1798, offered the most comprehensive treatment of classical mechanics since Isaac Newton, and formed a basis for the development of mathematical physics in the 19th century. And none of you have ever heard of this guy. Not only do satellites and James Webb Space Telescopes and shit exist in the Lagrange points, this guy is the most important guy since Isaac Newton. He developed the basis, he formed the basis for the development of mathematical physics. You would think all the people that really like physics and shit, they'd be Lagrange, oh yeah. In 1787, at age 51, he moved from Berlin to Paris and became a member of the French Academy of Sciences. You know, moving from Berlin to Paris in 1787 was at 51 years old, was no fucking problem. I know if you look at the people from, the 1970s and 60s and shit, what was 40 back, like Archie Bunker is supposedly like 48 or something like that in the show. Sanford, again, he's like late 40s, early 50s, something like that. People looked a lot older back in just the 60s and 70s. So imagine what they look like at 51 years old in 1787. But he moved from Berlin to Paris, like people always do. He remained in France until the end of his life. He was instrumental in the decimalization process in revolutionary France, became the first professor of analysis at the École Polytechnique upon its opening in 1794, was a founding member of the Bureau de Longitudes, and became senator in 1799. Jesus. Any one of these things would be like this great thing, and he's doing all of it. Can you imagine being dumb enough to like not want to take in information and just keep talking dumb, stupid shit instead of it's right here. Here's the sources. Look, here's his scientific contribution. Lagrange was one of the creators of the calculus of variations, deriving the Euler-Lagrange equations from extrema of functionals. He extended the method to include possible constraints, arriving at the method of Lagrange multipliers. Lagrange invented the method of solving differential equations known as variation of parameters, applied differential calculus to the theory of probabilities, and worked on solutions for algebraic equations. What do you do? I sit around and do math all day. He proved that every natural number is a sum of 4 squares. His treatise Theorie des Fonctions Analytiques laid some of the foundations of group theory, anticipating Galileo's. Was a French mathematician and political activist. He must have been killed because he was a young guy. October 1811 to May 1832. At the age of 14, he... Oh, Jesus Christ. He was a genius. Mathematics. To set a private class. This way. Gale's fatal duet. He died in a duel. Oh, okay. And he anticipated it? He anticipating that guy? They anticipated that guy? In calculus, Lagrange developed a novel approach to interpolation and Taylor's theorem. Oh, he named it after someone else. That was nice of him. He studied the three-body problem for the Earth, Sun, and Moon in 1764. It was already a thing. People already fucking... The three-body problem. In physics, specifically classical mechanics, the three-body problem is to take the initial positions of vertices of three-point masses that orbit each other in space and calculate their subsequent trajectories using Newton's law of motion and Newton's law of universal gravitation. That is fucking stupid. Gosh, that's weird. It's one of those weird things that doesn't actually make a pretty picture when you do it in a spirograph, huh? Looks like nonsense. The gravitational problem of three bodies in its traditional sense dates back to, in substance, from 1687 when Isaac Newton published his Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica, in which Newton attempted to figure out if any long-term stability is possible, especially for such a system like that of the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun, after having solved the two-body problem. The problem was first addressed... Okay, wait, let's see. Guided by major Renaissance astronomers Copernicus, Tycho Brahe, and Johannes Kepler, Newton... See, again, how the fuck would Newton have access to their work? Who was writing down and mass-producing their work so that Newton could go to the place and then find those books? Like, it's just ridiculous. Either we were these fucking dirt people living in Donkey Inc. times, or we had really advanced ways of communicating. It can't be both. Newton introduced later generations to the beginning of the gravitational three-body problem. In Proposition 66 of Book 1 of the Principia and its 22 corollaries, Newton took the first steps in the definition and study of the problem of the movements of three massive bodies subject to their mutually perturbing gravitational attractions. In Propositions 25 to 35 of Book 3, Newton also took the first steps in applying his results of Proposition 66 to the lunar theory, the motion of the moon under the gravitational influence of the Earth and Sun. Later, the problem was also applied to other planets' interactions with the Earth and the Sun. The physical problem was first addressed by Amerigo Vespucci and subsequently by Galileo Galilei, as well as Simon Stevin, but they did not realize what they contributed. And of course, their information was all available. Though Galileo determined that the speed of fall of all bodies changes uniformly, and in the same way, he did not apply it to planetary motions. Whereas in 1499, Vespucci used knowledge of the position of the moon to determine his position in Brazil. It became of technical importance in the 1720s, as an accurate solution would be applicable to navigation, specifically for the determination of longitude at sea, solved in practice by John Harrison's invention of the marine chronometer. So are we saying that prior to the 1720s, they didn't know how to get around by the stars and shit? Like what? However, the accuracy of the lunar theory was low due to the perturbing effect of the sun and planets on the motion of the moon around Earth. That's not true. The moon doesn't sort of change its position at any point in time. Oh, it's a little bit further out because Jupiter's pulling on it a little bit. That doesn't fucking happen. Jean Lerond d'Alembert. Oh, so we actually have his whole name here. Jean Lerond d'Alembert and Alexis Clairaut, who developed a long-standing rivalry. Oh, dun dun dun. Both attempted to analyze the problem in some degree of generality. They submitted their competing first analysis to the Académie Royale des Sciences in 1747. I mean, just think about how stupid this is. These two guys are competing with one another in their dirt thatch houses with their, no showers, and there are no toilets anywhere and all this other shit. But instead of working together to try to figure these things out, they're in competition so that, in 2025, when Guy Williams is reading about it, he's going to find your name first. And to think like this was like people gave a shit about this back then, with all of the shit people had going on and the struggle for food. There weren't grocery stores. There were, had to make your own clothes, had to do all that kind of shit. People were like, no, I don't need to. I'm gonna go study math, sciences, and space and shit. I mean, can you even imagine them talking about that? No, this is in space, out in the middle of space where there's no gravity. And how would they even begin to know all that? You can say it's calculated mathematically, but you have to have a basis for that shit. They have to have a reason to think that way to begin with. Okay. It was in connection with their research in Paris in the 1740s that the name three-body problem began to be commonly used. While the sheep herders are out sheep herding and come home from a long day of sheep herding, they sit around the family dinner table and they're like, well, I was thinking about that three-body problem there. It's common. Everybody's talking about it. I mean, it's just silly to think about. Just silly to think that somebody somewhere would come up with something and that other people would be able to engage in it. You're in Italy, this person's in Germany, and whatever, and why would you know about it? How long would it take for that information to travel from one source to the next on their major highways with their incredible modes of transportation. Oh, fuck. Um, An account published in 1761 by Jean de Rollin indicates the name was first used in 1747. From the end of the 19th century to the early 20th century, the approach to solve the three-body problem was within the usage of short-range attractive two-body forces was developed by scientists which offered P.F. Bedique, H.W. Hammer, H. period minus W. period Hammer, and U. period Van Clock. An idea to renormalize the short-range three-body problem, providing scientists a rare example of a renormalization group limit cycle at the beginning of the 21st century. George William Hill worked on the restricted problem in the late 19th century with an application of motion of Venus and Mercury. At the beginning of the 20th century, Carl Sundman approached the problem mathematically and systematically by providing a functional theoretical proof to the problem valid for all values of time. It was the first time scientists theoretically solved the three-body problem. However, because there was not a qualitative enough solution for this system and it was too slow for scientists to practically apply it, the solution still left some issues unresolved. In the 1970s, application to three-body implication to three-body from two-body force. I mean, it's just bullshit. It's just nonsense. It's just bullshit. Biography. Firstborn of 11 children. In appearance, he was of medium height and slightly formed, with pale blue eyes and a colorless complexion. In character, he was nervous and timid. He detested controversy, and to avoid it, willingly allowed others to take credit for what he had done himself. Yeah, that makes sense. He always thought of the subject of his papers before he began to compose them. He always thought out the subject of his papers before he began to compose them, and usually wrote them straight off without a single eraser or correction. That just makes sense. Firstborn of 11 children as Giuseppe Lodovico Lagrange. Lagrange was of Italian and French descent. His paternal great-grandfather was a French captain of cavalry whose family originated from the French region of Tours. After serving under Louis XIV, he had entered the service of Charles Emmanuel II, Duke of Savoy, and married a Conti from the noble Roman family. Oh, that's convenient. Lagrange's father, Giuseppe Francisco Lodovico, was a doctor in law at the University of Torino, while his mother was the only child of a rich doctor of Cambrio in the countryside of Turin. You know, all those doctors from the 17 fucking hundreds, right? Those rich doctors. He was raised as a Roman Catholic, but later became an agnostic. His father, who had charged the king's military chest, who had charge of the king's military chest, and was treasurer of the office of public works and fortifications in Turin, should have maintained a good social position and wealth, but before his son grew up, he had lost most of his property in speculations. A career as a lawyer was planned. Career as a lawyer was planned for Lagrange by his father, and certainly Lagrange seems to have accepted this willingly. He studied at the University of Turin, exactly, of course. And his favorite subject was classical Latin, which is easily, you could see why he would then become a mathematician and space guy. At first, he had no great enthusiasm for mathematics, finding Greek geometry rather dull. We know this about him. This is where we get all those funny details that we know, but we never get we always yada yada over the how things were figured out, worked out, discovered, whatever. But we know he had pale blue eyes and that he found Greek geometry rather dull. It was not until he was 17, oh, so we're still young, that he showed any taste for mathematics. His interest in the subject began being first excited by a paper by Edmund Halley in 1693. There we go. We're connecting the dots now. Right back to Halley's Comet, which he came across by accident. Right. That paper just happened to be lying around and he just found it. Alone and unaided, he threw himself into mathematical studies. At the end of a year's incessant toil, he was already an accomplished mathematician. So, he taught himself genius level mathematics at 17 years old, and it took a year, and he was a fucking a super genius mathematician now. Oh, did we have a Muslim try to talk about some bullshit? Oh, I love when Muslims come on here. Charles Emmanuel III appointed Lagrange to serve as the Solito del Maestro di Mathematics, mathematics assistant professor at the Royal Military Academy of Theory and Practice of Artillery in 1755, where he taught courses in calculus and mathematics to support the Piedmontese Army's early adoption of the ballistics theory of Benjamin Robbins and Leonhard Euler. Euler. Remember that guy? In that capacity, Lagrange was the first to teach calculus in an engineering school. So, all of those Greeks and all those Romans and aqueducts and all that great math that was clearly done to build all kinds of crazy shit. The first person to teach calculus at a university, at an engineering school, was this guy sometime after 765. In that capacity, Lagrange, according to Alessandro Papacino D'Antoni, the Academy's military commander and famous artillery theorist, Lagrange unfortunately proved to be a problematic professor with his oblivious teaching style, abstract reasoning, and impatience with artillery and fortification engineering applications. In this academy, one of his students was Francois David. Lagrange is one of the founders of the calculus of variations. Starting in 1754, he worked on the problem of Tautochron, discovering a method of maximizing and minimizing functionals in a way similar to finding extrema of functions. I mean, at the end of the day, none of that shit actually matters. All of that theoretical mathematical bullshit has no application to everyday life. Lagrange wrote several letters to Leonhard Euler between 1754 and 1756. Again, we're talking about, so he's writing letters and using whatever postal system they have to make sure these letters get to this other guy who is then reading them and being like, And so we know what was in those letters again. Because Euler was like, these are probably special letters. I'm going to save these. He outlined his, that's a weird symbol, algorithm leading to the Euler-Lagrange equations of variational calculus and considerably simplifying Euler's earlier analysis. Lagrange also applied his ideas to problems of classical mechanics, generalizing the results of Euler and Maupertus. Remember, this is the biography of someone from 1700. Euler was very impressed with Lagrange's results. This sounds like a dumb story. It has been stated, again, Euler was very impressed with Lagrange's results, said the people that were interviewed. It has been stated that with characteristic courtesy, he withheld a paper he had previously written, which covered some of the same ground, in order that the young Italian might have time to complete his work and claim the undisputed invention of the new calculus. Man, that guy was one of those guys too? Wow. And even though he was one of those guys, it still works out that here in 2025, we know about it. Do you understand how ridiculous all this shit is? Where is all of this written down so we can look and see where he's saying, yeah, I have this paper, and then we can date the paper and see, and he was like, I'm going to hold back my paper so this young Italian can get the credit for new calculus, a new form of calculus that he just came up with. However, this chivalric view has been disputed. Lagrange published his method in two memoirs of the Turin Society in 1762 and 1773, 11 years apart. In the memoirs of the Turin Society, memoirs of the Turin Society. 1758, with the aid of his pupils, mainly with Daviet, Lagrange established a society. Of course, because you were always establishing societies back then, which was subsequently incorporated as the Turin Academy of Sciences, which is red, so you can't read anything about it. Like, why would they highlight the fact that there's no page available? And most of his early writings are to be found in the 5 volumes of its Transactions, usually known as the Miscellanea Turensia. Many of these elaborate papers. The first volume contains a paper on the theory of the propagation of sound. In this, he indicates a mistake made by Newton, obtains a general differential equation for the motion, and integrates the motion in a straight line. This volume contains the complete solution of the problem of a string vibrating transversely. Transversally. In this paper, he points out a lack of generality in the solutions previously given by Brooke Taylor, D'Alembert, and Euler, and arrives at the conclusion that the form of the curve at any time t is given by the equation y equals a, italics a, sin, sin, times m times x, sin, nt, or, I mean, I don't know if it's m times x. Like, if this is math, right? So you do the thing in the parentheses first, which is m times x, and then n times t, I guess. Again, not something that you can apply in your everyday life, though. The article concludes with a masterly discussion of echoes, beats, and compound sounds. Other articles in this volume are on recurring series, probabilities, and the calculus of variations. So this guy had access to all these other guys' works, read all the shit, found the problems in it, then rewrote his own multi-volume work of shit that he then had published by the publishing house of who knows when and how. And then that became a standard throughout. Like, do you understand how ridiculous this is? It sounds like they had an internet back then. For all of them to be communicating and everything like they were, it definitely doesn't sound like what I think the 1700s were. You know, with a feeling level education. Yep, that's what it must be. Not reading what they want you to know and then dumbasses coming in, not actually saying anything that matters. The second volume contains a long paper embodying the results of several papers in the first volume on the theory and notation of the calculus of variations, and he illustrates its use by deducing the principle of least action and by solutions of various problems in dynamics. He was just tackling it all. And then there's this. And then there's this. Like, by candlelight, by oil lamp light, in his giant university of whatever building that was paid with money, and how people got like, it's all just fucking stupid, man. The third volume includes the solution of several dynamic processes. And that's just it. Like, either you're dumb enough to believe this narrative, believe that we have this accurate account of what was going on in 1750, but fuck if we haven't lost the telemetry data on how we went to the moon 40 years or 70 years ago. Well, I don't know how they did that. 60 years ago, I don't know. 50, 60 years, I don't know how we did that. They lost all that data, but no, we have these volumes from 17. Like, you either understand that what you're hearing here is just goofy story, made chat GPT story, or you believe it for some reason. And no matter what gets pointed out to you, you're just going to choose to overlook it because it's because you're stupid. You've been made to be stupid. You haven't been made to critically think about things. You've been made to accept it because they say so. You know, the idea of communication, of preservation of this information, of publication, all that shit. You're not going to bother to even think about it because you can't. You just say stupid shit, and that's pretty much how it works. The third volume includes the solution of several dynamical problems by means of the calculus of variations. Some papers on the integral calculus, a solution of a Fermat's problem given an integer n, which is not a perfect square, to find a number x such that n times x squared plus 1 is a perfect square, and the general differential equations of motion of three bodies moving under their mutual attractions. So again, this guy sits around and thinks about these things for a living. Who's paying for his life? How does he eat? How does he live? How does he pay his rent, his dowry, whatever it is, to the king? How does he pay all that shit? What is happening here that this guy is just sitting around thinking about math? My math just called math. The next work he produced was in 1764 on the liberation of the moon and an explanation as to why the same face was always turned to the earth, a problem which he treated by the aid of virtual work. His solution is especially interesting as containing the germ of the idea of generalized equations of motion, equations which he first formally proved in 1780. I mean, this guy, oh my God, his biography is insane. Already in 1756, Euler and Matropus, seeing Lagrange's mathematical talent, tried to persuade Lagrange to come to Berlin, but he shyly refused the offer. Again, think about this. Where, when, how were they communicating? Come to Berlin. Blah, blah, like, think about how crazy this is. By horseback? What? In 1765, and they know about this. We know about this. This is important to the narrative. It's important to the narrative that in 1756 they tried to get him to move to Berlin and he refused. So then why is that even a part of the story? Is that the only time anybody ever tried to get him to move anywhere? And if not, then why aren't those other people's account, being? And then there was another guy, his name was John. He tried to get him to move down the street to a better house. Well, he didn't want a better house. He liked his house. Like, it's just stupid. In 1765, D'Alembert interceded on Lagrange's behalf with Frederick of Prussia and by letter asked him to leave Turin for a considerably more prestigious position in Berlin. He again turned down the offer, responding that, so we know the letters of intent and then the responses letters were kept. Who the fuck kept this shit? Who the fuck wrote this down? It seems to me that Berlin would not be at all suitable for me while M.E. Euler is there. I thought they were boys. But that's what he responded with in an email. I mean, is that it? It's just that one little piece of paper was sent via what? Pony Express and shit? I got it here somewhere. Oh, fuck. Where did I put it? Oh, man. No, it's not this one. Oh, it's this one. Okay. Yeah, it says, it seems to me that Berlin would not be at all suitable for me while M. Euler is there. Okay, so what's your response? I got to get back. In 1766, after Euler left Berlin for St. Petersburg, Frederick himself wrote to Lagrange expressing the wish of, quote, the greatest king in Europe, quote, to have, quote, the greatest mathematician in Europe, end quote, reside at his court. Lagrange was finally persuaded. He spent the next 20 years in Prussia, where so we know, again, we know about that little email that said the greatest king wants the greatest mathematician. We know that, and that's what got him to move to, that's an important part of this story. He spent the next 20 years in Prussia, where he produced a long series of papers published in Berlin, in the Berlin and Turin Transactions, and composed his monumental work, the Mechanik Analytik, not sure when. In 1767, he married his cousin, Vittoria Conti. In 1767, he married his cousin. And this was only a year after he had moved, or while he had moved. Let's see. He was born in 1736. So he didn't marry his cousin until 1767. So he's 31 years old. Okay. Lagrange was a favorite of the king, who frequently lectured him on the advantages of perfect regularity of life. The advantages of perfect regularity of life. The lesson was accepted, and Lagrange studied his mind and body as though they were machines, and experimented to find the exact amount of work which he could do before exhaustion. Every night he set himself a definite task for the next day, and on completing any branch of a subject, he wrote a short analysis to see what points in the demonstrations or the subject matter were capable of improvement. He carefully planned his papers before writing them, usually without a single erasure or correction. There's that copy and paste line. Nonetheless, during his years in Berlin, Lagrange's health was rather poor, and that of his wife Vittoria, his wife cousin, was even worse. She died in 1783 after years of illness, and Lagrange was very depressed. In 1786, Frederick II died, and the climate of Berlin became difficult for Lagrange. The climate? It changed? In 1786, following Frederick's death, Lagrange received similar invitations from states including Spain and Naples, and he accepted the offer of Louis XVI to move to Paris. Of course. Because everybody from Spain to Naples, they all knew about this guy. In France, he was received with every mark of distinction, and special apartments in the Louvre were prepared for his reception, and he became a member of the French Academy of Sciences, which later became part of the Institut de France in 1795. At the beginning of his residence in Paris, he was seized with an attack of melancholy, and even the printed copy of his Mécanique, on which he had worked for a quarter of a century, lay for more than 2 years unopened on his desk. Why would we know that? Do you understand how stupid that is? Absolutely proud Holocaust narrative denier. Super proud of it. Because the Holocaust is another dumb fucking story. And the book that he had been working on remained closed on his desk for more than 2 years. Yes, we know about this because it was written down by his autobiographer. Curiosity as to the results of the French Revolution first stirred him out of his lethargy, a curiosity which soon turned to alarm as the revolution developed. It was about the same time, 1792, that the unaccountable sadness of his life and his timidity moved the compassion of 24-year-old René Francois Adeline Le Monnier, daughter of his friend, the astronomer Pierre Charles Le Monnier. She insisted on marrying him and proved a devoted wife to whom he became warmly attached. 1792, he's like 60 something years old, right? Yeah, 17, what was it? 1767, he was 31. So 1792, happens to be another. Oh, wait, no. 1792. Yeah, he's like 60 years old. Married at 24. The 24-year-old demanded to be married to him. In September of 1793, the Reign of Terror began. Under the intervention of Anthony Lavoisier, who himself was by then already thrown out of the academy along with many other scholars, Lagrange was specifically exempted by name in the decree of October 1793 that ordered all foreigners to leave France. How is that even enforceable? Like, think about how ridiculous that is. On May 4th, 1794, Lavoisier and 27 other tax farmers were... What's a tax farmer? Farming or tax farming is a technique of financial management in which the management of a variable revenue stream is assigned by legal contract to a third party, and the holder of the revenue stream receives fixed periodic rents from the contractor. Were arrested and sentenced to death and guillotined on the afternoon after the trial. Lagrange said on the death of Lavoisier, again, we have this email, "It took only a moment to cause the head to fall, and 100 years will not suffice to produce its like." Though Lagrange had been preparing to escape from France while there was yet time, he was never in any danger. Different revolutionary governments, and at a later time, Napoleon, gave him honors and distinctions. This luckiness or safety may to some extent be due to his life attitude he expressed many years before. Quote, "I believe that, in general, one of the first principles of every wise man is to conform strictly to the laws of the country in which he is living, even when they are unreasonable." Yeah, that sounds like how it goes. Just follow the rules. Don't say anything, just follow the rules. I love how somebody comes out, average Holocaust denier. Yet you're not capable of having that conversation, you dumb Jay. Get the fuck out of here, you genocide supporting, baby penis sucking piece of shit. Oh, a striking testimony to the respect in which he was held was shown in 1796 when the French commissionary in Italy was ordered to attend in the full state of Lagrange's father and tender the congratulations of the Republic on the achievements of his son, who, quote, "had done honor to all mankind by his genius, and whom it was the special glory of Piedmont to have produced." I mean, these are people living in nothing. It's mud, and there's no electricity, and it's... Come on now. It may be added that Napoleon, when he attained power, warmly encouraged scientific studies in France and was a liberal benefactor of them. Appointed senator in 1799, he was the first signer of the Senatius Consulate, which in 1802 annexed his fatherland Piedmont to France. Never heard of Piedmont in the fucking annals of history, and yet Piedmont is such a common name, common products, and Piedmont baseball cards and shit like that. Like, interesting. Isn't that the Piedmont? Isn't that one of the horse races of the Triple Crown? I may be wrong on that one. He acquired French citizenship in consequence. The French claimed he was a French mathematician, but the Italians continued to claim him as Italian. Is this why his name was changed so much? Dude, I can't even keep reading this. This is just fucking ridiculous, and there's just too much of it. Lagrange was involved in the development of the metric system of measurement in the 1790s. They just attribute, like I say, it's like a spiral. And the further you go back, the tighter everything gets. And they just start attributing a bunch of shit down to one guy. And you'll start to see that all of these one guys connect to each other. He was offered the presidency of the Commission for the Reform of Weights and Measures when he was preparing to escape. After Lavoisier's death in 1794, it was largely Lagrange who influenced the choice of the meter and kilogram units with decimal subdivision by the Commission of 1799. So this guy is the main reason why, like, the metric system exists. Lagrange was also one of the founding members of the Bureau des Longitudes in 1795. I bet that's the people that figured out the latitude and longitude lines of the world. In 1795, Lagrange was appointed to a mathematical chair at the newly established École Normale, which enjoyed only a short existence of 4 months. His lectures there were elementary. They contain nothing of any mathematical importance, though they do provide a brief historical insight into his reason for postponing undecimal or base 11 as the base number for the reformed system of weights and measures. Jesus Christ. Yep, that's what it is. See, again, stupid people come in and say stupid things. They can't, like, this is a scientific discussion. This is like real life shit. And this guy can't argue about what's going on here. He definitely can't argue as to why the Jays are okay, why we should accommodate that piece of shit cult, why we should keep giving American tax dollars to murderers and rapists. And yeah, no, that makes sense. Bet he's a dumb Trump supporter. The lectures were published because the professors had to, quote, pledge themselves to the representatives of the people and to each other neither to read nor to repeat from memory. Their lectures were published. Just think about what this takes to do. The logistics of things should just completely destroy all these dumb narratives. Normales entreprises avec les représentants. Why do we just go into fucking French here? Okay, the discoveries, the discourses were ordered and taken down in shorthand to enable the deputies to see how the professors acquitted themselves. It was also thought that published lectures would interest a significant portion of the citizenry. And then we just go into French again. In 1794, Lagrange was appointed professor of the École Polytechnique, and his lectures there, described by mathematicians who had the good fortune to be able to attend them, were almost perfect, both in form and matter. Beginning with the merest elements, he led his hearers on until almost unknown to themselves, they were themselves extending the bounds of the subject. Above all, he impressed on his pupils the advantage of always using general methods expressed in a symmetrical notation. However, Lagrange does not seem to have been a successful teacher. Fourier, who attended his lectures, wrote in 1795, because again, we just have this. His voice was very feeble, at least in that he does not become heated. He has a very marked Italian accent and pronounces the S's like Z's. The students, of whom the majority are incapable of appreciating him, give him little welcome, but the professors make amends for it. This is his tomb. Lagrange's tomb in the crypt of the Pantheon. Get the fuck out of here. Who made this? How did this get down there? That lid looks like one solid piece. How the fuck did that get down there? The whole thing looks like one solid piece. In 1810, Lagrange started a thorough revision of the mechanic analytic, but he was only able to complete about 2/3 of it before his death in Paris in 1813. In 128 Rue de Faubourg, Napoleon honored him with the Grand Croix of the Order Imperial de la Réunion just 2 days before he died. He was buried that same year in the Pantheon in Paris. The inscription on his tomb reads, Joseph Louis Lagrange, Senator, Count of the Empire, Grand Officer of the Legion of Honor, Grand Cross of the Imperial Order of the Réunion, member of the Institute of the Bureau of Longitude, born in Turin on January 25th, 1736, died in Paris on April 10th, 1813. Jesus Christ, that shit is insanely dumb. It's just dumb. Anyway, I'm done. It's way too much. Way too much for one day. I'm so fucking exhausted and beat up now, and I don't fucking feel good. But hey, hopefully we learned something today. Stupid people, man, go educate yourself, right? Try to get some information on this, because this is what you're supposed to believe. You have to believe this guy would be up there with Drebel, Cornelius Drebel, as to why the fuck I'd never heard of this guy. Why had I never heard of Lagrange until the James Webb Space Telescope? And I was like, Lagrange point, what the fuck is that? But go watch Hollywoodism. Hollywoodism literally explains all of this. It explains all of it. And if you watch Hollywoodism and you can find anything wrong with what I'm saying, by all means, please do. Go get your free download, www.the-bilderberg.group.com. And go to the Facebook page, which is also there. All these are going to have, the links to all of these are going to be in the description. So go check all that shit out. Most important is that you go watch Hollywoodism. It will answer the questions. And then go get your free download. Put 0 in the payment box when it asks how much you want to pay. And it'll, go from there. What's your take on the globalist versus flat earth argument? You're being distracted. If you're not focused on, if you're focused on anything other than the J conspiracy, the genocide that's taking place, the J pedos that run Hollywood and the government, the J conspiracy, then you're being distracted. The earth shape argument is one of the best distractions they give us, along with the Tartaria stuff and all of it, because we literally can't know any of these answers until we Goyim unite and overthrow the J's that control the narrative. It's just that fucking simple. Everything else is just distraction. And if I was wrong, there would be people on here to tell me what I'm wrong about, how I'm wrong, blah, blah, blah. It wouldn't be an attack the messenger kind of thing where we try to get the other watchers to think I'm crazy. So then if I'm making sense to you, you go, whoa, shit. Well, I'm not crazy. He's crazy, so I'm not crazy, blah, blah, blah. They're not going to actually, engage or debunk anything I have to say. They never do. They never have. They never will. They never can. None of it. Go back and watch all of my videos. You'll never see somebody actually intelligently try to debate me on this. Ha! Dumbass Leroy just put Y-O-U-R wrong. Y-O-U-R wrong. You're wrong. Y-O-U-R. because he's too stupid. There you go. Good job. Good job, Leroy. Yo, Leroy! Like, dumb shit like Leroy will say shit like, you're wrong. But about what, Leroy? How? This is that part. This is how they prove they're just dumb Jays. Dance, monkey, dance. Okay, I dance, but I'm not good at it, so... Leroy's not going to tell you anything. Leroy doesn't know shit. Leroy is part of this pedo group. This pedo, genocidal piece of shit cult. And the Goyim need to eliminate this cult. Stop accommodating this piece of shit cult. It doesn't mean anything. My dad, blah, 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 blah. Says the guy watching. Can't say anything that matters because he's a dumb, cowardly J piece of shit. Literally, that's all it is. He's a piece of shit. Fucks with children and shit. You know, these are pedos. They support pedos. They are pedos. And they support genocide. And any other fucking thing. See, look. He doesn't even deny it. How many people get called pedo and don't go, what? Fuck you. I'm not a, These are pedos. These are all dumb J pedos trying to stop someone like me from getting in charge or getting any sort of platform because I call on their death. I call to kill them all. We kill pedos. We don't give them another chance. We kill them. And they know the last thing they want is someone like me coming in, winning my presidency in 2028. Because I am running for president, 2028. The last thing they want is my legislation coming through saying all pedos are killed and all Jays are kicked the fuck out. Go to Israel and live your little bullshit supremacist life over there. All right? These dumb Jays are just, they cut and suck baby penises. Or at least they watch it take place. They support it. They schedule that shit. Anytime you want to meet in real life, come to Cleveland, blah, blah, blah. Shut the fuck up, you dumb little bitch. You won't come anywhere near me. You'd run like the cowardly piece of shit you are. Because you're a dumb J. I'm going to come to Cleveland. Why would I go to Cleveland to see... Why would I go to Cleveland? But why would I go to Cleveland to see some dumb cowardly J? Get the fuck out of here. I give anything to let them, have that situation where I could beat down these pedos. That would be so much fun. But, imagine that. Imagine being challenged mentally and going, oh yeah? Want to fight about it? I'm too stupid to challenge you mentally. You want to fight about it? Fucking cowards, man. Give me your location. I'll come find you. I'll come find you. How dare you point out how stupid and how dare you point out I'm a pedo and how dare you point out that, yeah. You're not going to do shit, you dumb bitch. You're going to come back tomorrow and the next day and the next day to keep watching your God as far as you're concerned. I am everything to you. I am what you live for. I am your master, and you'll do as you're fucking told, you dumb bitch. Right? You're just a dumb bitch. Oh yeah, I'm going to think about you later. Yeah. Dumb fucking bitch coward pedos, man. These J's are all the same. They talk a big game, and all you got to do is flick their fucking nose, and they're going to run away. Pedo fucking coward, bitch ass, genocide supporting pieces of shit. Can't deny anything I say. Can't deny anything I say. You are entertaining too. Come on, Team Goyim. We need to eliminate this J cult if it's the last thing we do. For our children, our children's children, and everything like that. These J's need to go, and we'll get there. 2028, my presidential campaign. It's going to happen. I can already feel it. This is grassroots at its finest, and they're doing everything they can to try to stop it, stifle it, everything they can, other than obviously debunk me, but they can't. So they go through such desperate measures to try to get some sort of anything. And all it does is prove the point, right? All it does is prove the fucking point. How do we eliminate this J cult menace from our society? And it literally just comes down to we stop supporting it. It'll never survive on its own. Never. It can't. They're too small in number. They're too stupid as people. They're just inferior all the way around. They're inferior. And they're cowards. And their time is short, man. I'm telling you. Their time is short. We will eliminate this cult from the fucking planet. So, you have yourself a wonderful day. You pedos, you kill yourself, okay? Do it hard, do it good, do it quick.